In this video, we're going to take a look at our third sprint in Enterprise Application Development and Microservices. We're also going to take a look at our learning module on one-to-many in the Bootstrap Carousel, and we're going to take a look at a couple of demonstrations of what's to come. Now, we did a good job on our first couple of sprints because we completed our stories as we hoped, we completed our sprint goals, and we moved the tasks for those stories from to do all the way over to done. So in our third sprint, we are essentially starting fresh with 3 new stories that I picked, really 2 plus possibly an additional story. So the first story is showing a specimen for plants. So using our existing application, we can already search for plants and it just returns to us a list of plants. In this story, we're going to show specimens that are related to those plants, and then we'll also show photos for those specimens by using the carousel component from Bootstrap. So a nice bit of integration there between Spring Boot, Bootstrap, images, lots of other things. Now we know that image processing tends to be a fairly heavyweight process. It tends to be rather resource intensive, and so we don't necessarily want the user to have to wait for an image to be processed. And by processed I mean it can be resized and it can also be watermarked. So our second story is to do photo post-processing, but here's the interesting part. We're doing it with a separate, brand new Spring Boot application that we are going to build. So, separate application, and it's going to communicate with our existing application by using a queue system. So our existing application drops a notification onto a queue. The new application will get the notification from that queue, we'll pick up the image, we'll resize it, and we'll watermark it. So those are 2 big stories that I have planned for this sprint. Now, the third story, the kind of bonus story, is hackathon. A lot of times if we have a lot of work that we need to get done and we're a little bit worried about getting it done by the deadline, maybe we want to add a little buffer in there, a little overflow. But what if we do get done on time? Well, if we do get done on time, then we can have kind of a hackathon session where developers get to drive the direction and developers get to choose what to work on. So, we might get there, we might not. I'm not too worried either way. I've left it completely undefined so that if we do choose to get there, we can pick what we want to work on, whatever emerging topic we want to work on. So our week 13 is, or actually just go with the module. The module 13 is one-to-many and Bootstrap Carousel. In the videos you'll see here, create a simple find by query with Spring JPA, create a detail page using our time-leaf each element. Look at the one-to-many mapping that we have so we can relate a specimen to photos, and also we've already related photos back to specimens, but this gives us kind of a bi-directional communication. Finally, we have the Bootstrap Carousel where we see how to use this Bootstrap library to add a carousel to our web application. So let's take a look at the demonstration of the finished product. So I have here the application we've been working on. We know I can type in a word at the top and hit search. And up until this point, we just got this feed of plants that match that search criteria. And it's coming from a JSON feed. It still is coming from that same JSON feed with the added bonus of having some caching built in that we put together in a previous module. But here's what's new. Now we can click on Mahonium aquifolium, and as we click through here, we can see a slideshow of photos. Now, you notice that these photos we're looking at have, this is the original version. I could probably change that and use the resized version for a little bit better look and feel. But nonetheless, take a look at this image. If we scroll down and we go to the right, you see that a copyright has been placed on top of the image. So that's part of our post-processing, is the ability to put a copyright on there. So this is going to happen over 2 different learning modules. The first one, we're just concerned with doing the search from, well, the Mahonia to plants we've already done. In the first learning module, we're just going to look at how we can click through here and we can create a specimen detail page. We're also going to look at how we can show these images in a slideshow as you see here. In the next learning module, we'll see how to do the post-processing and the offline processing. So a lot of very relevant topics, a lot of very timely topics. Now let's go ahead and consider what we need to update on our Scrum board. There's going to be essentially about 1 story per learning module. So in our first learning module, we're going to start off by, well, we will create our specimen detail page. Just one moment. There we go. So we'll move that to in progress. Find by query JPA. So that's going to be a fun one because what we're doing is we're using just the name of a method to create a specific type of query that will look for photos based on a specimen or look for specimens based on plants, either way, just by naming a method. That's all we have to do. We don't actually have to make any SQL or anything like that. So we'll jump into that in this module. We'll look at one-to-many mapping, so how we can go from specimens to photos, because each specimen could have multiple photos. And then we will take a look at Bootstrap's photo carousel. We'll finish that all in this first learning module, so I will go ahead and drag these all to done. And then in our next learning module, we're going to take a look at this photo post-processing. So I'm excited about these. I hope you are as well. A lot of very advanced topics, not necessarily difficult, just advanced and very, very timely topics. So let's get started.